Hi everyone. Today we're going to start working with formulas and functions. I am in the Learning Files workbook and I've clicked on the Basic Formulas worksheet. So I'd like to start by talking about the difference between a formula and a function. So a formula is an equation that starts with an equal sign. It's built with numbers or cell references, and they are separated with math function keys, which would be your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division keys. Now, a function is a built-in formula. It also starts with an equal sign. It's followed by the name of the function, and it includes cell references and math function keys. So I'd like to start by clicking on the Formula tab and just orienting you to what you'll find here. So on the far left, you've got the Insert Function button. And you'll notice that this button is also located to the left of your formula bar. If you click it, it opens up the Insert Function window, and this is where you search for and access functions. We'll look at this a little more closely when we get to a more advanced lesson on formulas and functions. You have your function library group, which is organized by category. AutoSum is something that we're going to work with today. This is a collection of the most frequently used functions in Excel, the most basic functions. So we have sum, which adds a range of numbers. Average calculates an average of a range of numbers. Count numbers analyzes a range of data and tells you how many cells in that range contain numbers. Max will analyze a range of data and tell you which number in that range is the biggest. Min will do the opposite. It's going to analyze a range of data and tell you which number in that range is the smallest. We're going to look at all of these functions a little later. Okay, continuing on the function library, you've got different categories of functions, and these are the same functions that are in your insert function menu. So if you look here, notice you have the same categories that are displayed here. Okay, so whichever way you access them doesn't matter. You're going to get the same end result. We have our name group, okay, where we manage any names that we've created in the name box. We've got our formula auditing tools, which you'll look at in a later lesson. And you've got some options for doing calculations. Now, this worksheet that I've opened up is just a basic formula worksheet. And its purpose is to get you comfortable building formulas from scratch. So if you look at the data in cell A3, it says in column C, enter a formula to add the numbers in columns A and B. So I'm going to click in cell C5 because this is where I want to build my formula. And I'm going to build a formula that's going to add A5 plus B5. So to do that, I hit the equals key on my keyboard, and I'm going to use the cell reference A5 by clicking on it. I'm going to hit the plus key on my keyboard, and then I'm going to click on the next cell reference, which is B5, and I hit enter. Now the answer to my formula shows up in the cell, but the formula that I used to get that answer shows up in my formula bar. Now, if I wanted to calculate all of these addition problems, I could do them one by one like I just did. Okay, equals, A6 plus B6, enter. And I could keep doing that over and over, but that's a pain in the neck. So there's a tool that makes that easier. It's called the copy tool. And if you click on a cell that has a formula in it, and you put your mouse pointer over the break in the bottom right corner of that cell, you access the copy tool or the fill handle. If you click and drag with that, it copies the pattern used to create the formula in the original cell. So if I click on some of these cells and look in my formula, I can see that the pattern is continued. This says A7 plus B7. The next one says A8 plus B8, A9 plus B9, and so on. All right, let's build a formula that's going to multiply E5 times F5. So that would be equals, I click on E5, I hit the multiplication key, which is the asterisk, and then I click on F5, enter. And then I can click on that cell that holds my formula and drag it down. Okay, here we're going to build a formula that's going to subtract J5 from I5. Same steps, equals I5 minus J5. Enter. Copy my formula. And the last one is division. We're going to divide M5 by N5. So it's equals M5 divided by N5. And we copy the formula down. Now, formulas update automatically. So if I change a number that a formula is based on, let's say I change this 500 to 1500, notice my calculation updates. Okay, so that happens automatically. So that's one of the reasons that it's best to use cell references in a formula rather than just typing the number. So watch my example. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to build a formula using numbers. So I'm going to go equals 1500 plus 200. And I'm going to hit enter. I get the correct answer, but if I change one of these cells, my formula doesn't update because I didn't use a cell reference. Okay, so that's important. So I'm going to delete this again and use my cell reference. Equals this plus this, enter. Now there's a tool on your formula tab in the formula auditing group called Show Formulas. If you click that, it displays the formulas in the cell rather than the answer to the calculation. Okay, that's a toggle. So if I click it a second time, it goes back to my normal view. Okay, let's look at some of the AutoSum functions. In rows 16 through 20, I have some math problems, and I'm going to use the AutoSum functions to solve them. So this problem says, use the max function to find the biggest number in column A. So I'm going to click here in cell O16, because that's where I want my answer to show up. And I'm going to go get the max function. AutoSum drop arrow, and I'm going to choose max. Now Excel thinks I want to use the max function on this range, O5 through O16, 15, but it's incorrect. My problem says to find the biggest number in column A. So I have to select all the numbers in column A, starting with A5 and extending through A14. and then I hit enter. If I click back on my formula, I can see my answer is 951. My formula in the formula bar says equals, because I did a calculation. Max is the name of the calculation. And then the cells involved in it are A5 through A14. And if I look at these cells, I can easily tell that 951 is the biggest number in that range of data. Now, if I change a number, let's say I change that to 1500 again, watch my max formula. It updates, because now this is the biggest number in column A. All right, my next problem says use the min function to find the smallest number in column B. So I'm going to click in O17, because that's where I want my answer to show up. I'm going to go get the min function, and I'm going to highlight the range that it tells me. So smallest number in column B. So I'm going to highlight B5 through B14 and hit enter. If I click on the cell, I can see my answer is 85. My formula is in the formula bar. And if I do a quick peek, I can see that this is true. The smallest number in that range is 85. The next problem has us use the average function to calculate the average of cells E5 through E14. Same steps. Click on the cell, grab the function, highlight the cells you want to average, E5 through E14. Okay, the next problem says use the count function to find the number of how many cells in the range contain numbers. So I'm going to click here because that's where I want my answer to show up. I'm going to get the count function, count numbers, and I'm going to highlight the range A5 through O14. And I'm going to hit enter. This says that 120 of those cells are numbers. Let's test it. All right, I'm going to change this number 1 to the word 1. Okay, now 118 cells contain numbers because this one no longer contains a number and this one no longer contains a number. This has an error because we can't multiply text times a number. So let's fix it. I'll put a 1 and enter it. Okay, and our last function is the sum function. And our task says to add the numbers in cells J5 through J14. So I'm going to get my sum function. I'm going to highlight J5 through J14, and I'm going to hit enter. And my answer is 553, and my formula is displayed up in the formula bar. So at this point, my hope is that you can build a basic manual formula from scratch and that you can use all of the AutoSum functions.